And you're very welcome to another edition of the Solid Foundations Property Podcast. If you're listening, you're very welcome along. Hopefully, you are good. We are we're recording this in February of 2025. And, Lisa, you're just welcome back. I'd like to welcome you back all the way from Australia. Before we get into that, it's been a busy first opening couple of weeks in the market, and suppose it always takes 2 weeks or 3 weeks before everyone gets out of the Christmas mold and that, and get back into getting on with business. But the usual metrics and noise is in both markets across Ireland and Northern Ireland, and we will be dipping our toe into the UK with one of our special guests today, Lisa. But how are you anyway? First of all.
All good, yeah, all nice and refreshed back from Australia
Or or
after
should I
2 weeks.
say, "G'day, Skippy"? Is that?
Yeah, and throw a shrimp on the barbie and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, it was great. So I mentioned on the last podcast, I think, that I was hosting an event in one of my sister's pub there in Perth. Now I didn't actually get around to it, but actually, would you believe, I got 4 communication messages, direct messages, to see was I hosting it. So I tried to
You,
meet them all
I,
individually.
I,
Uh,
I'm going to call you out on this, like the absolute nonsense that you're flying over and this big, beautiful plan that you had. You were going to have an event and you were going to do this. You didn't do
I know.
anything. What,
I
Lisa? For
know.
the love of God, huh?
I know, I know. I have
No.
all these great ideas, and then I didn't have my website done in time. That was my problem, right? So my website was a bit oh. So I said, right, I can't start advertising this until my website is good because I want people to go to the website and then join the webinar and all the rest of it. So I'll be honest with you, the
Oh,
website
right.
threw me off. I didn't get that done until Christmas, and then after that, then I just was so busy trying to get prepared to go to Australia. So honestly, my hands held high, and my hands held up. That's exactly what happened. So yeah, but you're right, Porrick. You should slap me on the
Yeah,
wrist for it.
yeah. Away traveling, boasting to me about, oh, I'm going to Australia and I'm going to meet people and we're going to talk about. Get on with it. Don't be talking nonsense. This is not the talking nonsense podcast. This is the I will do, Lisa O'Reilly. I will do. I'm only joking you. No, it's difficult when you're away, and I know you have the kids with you as well. And it's good to see you back from your first holiday of the year. If I got one holiday a year, I'm doing all right. So how's the projects going? Are you winning? Is the old phrase?
Yeah, so we are waiting on a big refinance of the big portfolio
Mm.
there with Bank of Ireland. Then that was meant to be again February, but typical kind of Irish banks, it's going to be March, probably the end of March at this stage. So then once that frees up money, I have gone sell agreed on 2 properties, and that's in Waterford where I'm from, and there's going to be more money in the pot. So I'm going to venture up to Kildare or Dublin for the next couple of properties. So it's my first time actually buying in Kildare and Dublin. I'm doing a few rent to SAs and rent to rents and HMOs up there. So the market's good. So I think it's time to start investing in with the big boys. How about
There you
yourself,
go.
Porrick? How are you getting on with your projects?
Bringing on your big boy pants. There we go. Yeah. But look, the second HMO is nearly finished, which is good. The build team are flying it through. They were plastering it there 2 weeks ago. I think I put some pictures up on the social, and they're painting it this week. So yeah, no, getting good. Getting closer to starting our 10-bed HMO. So this has been a long process as a heritage building. 10-bed HMO, a lot of different moving parts. You've got about 10 or 15 different statements to get prepared. Beautiful stuff, great crack altogether, and it's a reason why we do it. But no, looking at a couple of offers has gone into different opportunities that we've looked at. And yeah, meeting a few interesting characters today, and hopefully we'll have another deal to talk about on the next property podcast. And with the property meet there just Tuesday night last, the February edition was fantastic. It was great crack altogether, and changed the format up a wee bit. And with Michael from Galway, so a big hello to him. He came all the way from Galway, 6-hour round trip, so it was great to see him up and just learning about HMOs and trying to see can they do this strategy in the Republic of Ireland, which you can, but there's no legislation, which is something that I've been battling with. The legislation is changing in Derry City a little bit where we invest, and you have a free run of it down there, Lisa. So well done, you.
We have a free run for now until all the regulation comes in. There's actually there's talk now as well. You'll see it in the media. There's talk about the regulation being tightened up for the SAs, serviced accommodation, Airbnbs in the south of Ireland. So any Airbnbs kind of under 15 night stays, they require planning permission in most areas that are in the rent pressure zone. Equally, they're talking now about getting rid of the rent pressure zones or somehow easing of the rent pressure zones because that is actually a pure shit show. Sorry, excuse my language. So I think there's going to be some big changes coming in the legislation in the Irish property market coming soon. And then the other one to keep an eye on as well is what a lot of the Irish are getting into at the moment is the Ukraine ARP scheme. So this is where the ARP, people that live in Ukraine, say, that are fleeing the country, you put them into a house or into one of the rooms of your HMOs, and you can get €800 tax free. It's due to end at the end of March. I think it's the 25th of March. But there's talks that it will be extended, but it might be a reduced amount. So rather than €800 tax free per month per person or per air code, it could go down to €600 is what they're talking about. So it really, nobody knows. It's watch this space, but really I think gut feel tells me that there's only another year in it. And at the end of next year, then you'll need to decide what you're going to do then, because we're going to have all these Ukrainians in the properties, and how can you keep them housed, or is it going to turn into a HAP scheme? Or so just to keep an eye on that, because there's a few moving parts coming in the Republic of Ireland. If anybody wants to have a chat about anything, especially in relation to maybe the Ukraine scheme or serviced accommodation, then reach out to me and I'll see if I can get you scheduled in. And then the other thing as well, I want to do a quick plug before we introduce our guest, is we are looking for houses in Carlow, and also Airbnb type accommodation in Roscrea area. So we have a couple of big corporate clients who are looking for houses to house their workers. So if anybody's got any kind of houses that are empty, vacant in Carlow, around Roscrea, those two areas, please reach out to me. And if you have any houses that are vacant, you're a property owner, you're a landlord, and you have vacant property, just reach out to me if you're looking to get into the corporate let market, and we'll see can we get you some tenants or clients in there or whatever. So go back to you, Porrick, and we'll introduce the next guest.
Okay, that's all right. That's a long enough plug. Where to send the bill there, Joe? Delighted to say on this month's Solid Foundations Property Podcast, we all shiver and shake whenever we hear the word social media, Lisa. And for us older generation, not like Joe, he's on the younger side. Well, you suppose
25, mate. So you decide. Am I young?
I'm only joking. Face on Lisa, if you're listening to this, the face on Lisa is quite funny. But no, in all seriousness, delighted to say we have to go over to Leeds, beautiful Leeds. Many of Irish footballer has gone over to Leeds, but we're heading over there to an expert in this particular field. It's getting more and more popular. It's part of a lot of business arms now is there's social media and social selling, and no better man than Joe Taylor from eGrowth Media to tell us all about it. Joe, you're very welcome to the Solid Foundations Property Podcast from sunny Leeds today.
Good morning, everybody. Looking forward to talking about social media, and I think I really want to distill the myths around it, because, as you said, Porrick, everyone that I come across gets when we hear the word social media, instantly they start quivering. And I want to kind of go behind the curtain, really, and essentially just give you some tools, the viewers and the listeners, some tools that they can go ahead and implement and essentially just get started, because social media can be a beautiful thing if it's used correctly. And that's what I really want to get across today, because a lot of people don't use it correctly, and then they have this preconception of what social media is. So we'll get into it today.
And suppose, like, when you look at, as you know, I come from a media background, and many years ago, all you had was radio, and all you had was newspaper, and that was it. And it was the local newspaper. That was really it. Like, there wasn't any real Pacific magazines. There might have been, but it was definitely a very difficult time. Now these tools are there, these platforms. You see people exploding on them. But for property investors, people that's getting into property development, and it's very daunting in a way, because they're trying to raise finance. Obviously, that's what it's all about when it comes to social media for property investors.
Yeah, that's correct. And like, a lot of people can get sidetracked and not use it correctly. But as you said, the main thing as a property investor and as a sourcer is either finding deals that you can get funded, or if you're a sourcer, you can sell deals to a list of investors. And that's why ultimately, in my opinion, social media used correctly is such an important tool for every property investor that's listening to this. Because yes, you could go into a room, you could meet an investor, you can meet a few people. Let's say there's a room of 50. You're not going to speak to everyone. But in a Facebook group, on a post, it could get 10,000 views, 100,000 views. And then out of them views, I'll give you an example. One of our clients, Liam, is a guy from Halifax. Last month, he got 500,000 views. And out of them 500,000 views, he met 2 people, okay? 2 people who are interested in pledging him investment, okay? That could be up to £1 million. And imagine how much that £1 million is going to do for his business. He's going to be able to acquire X amount of properties, get more cash flow, obviously get more financial freedom. And you can see where the result goes. The more people that see you, the more people that engage with you, the more conversations you have, the more likely you are to close a lead. It's as simple as that. It's the law of big numbers. So yeah, that's an example of when you use it correctly, and why everyone listening to this should and must be building a social media presence. It's essential in today's world.
Yeah.
So, Joe, do you recommend for a property investor who is looking to raise money? So myself and Porrick, we're constantly doing this. We're trying to raise money, trying to find property. Do you recommend any particular platform? And like, would you think that is there something to be said for kind of, going across all the platforms, but is that spreading yourself too thin, or would you recommend kind of just like deep diving on 1 or 2 platforms?
That's a very good question. So I'll tell you, first of all, answer the first point of your question. So my personal favorite platform is Facebook. Okay, Facebook is fantastic in my opinion. Every market will tell you different. Some YouTube people say YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. But for me, and from the results that we've had, about 60% of the money that we've raised up to date, it's about £5 to £7 million for our clients collectively, has come through Facebook. Okay, like Facebook groups. Facebook's an older demographic. Okay, generally we find older people have more money. Okay, they're much more of a mature audience. Okay, so that's the first point. Second point is, should you post on every single platform? Now, in a sense, that sounds good. Okay, but what I see, this mistake a lot of people make is they post the same content on every single platform. But for example, Instagram and TikTok is much more video focused. So we have a different content strategy for our clients on these 2 platforms as we do on Facebook, for example, because that's how we're going to get the best out of that platform. So I would say focus on 1 or 2 platforms. If you have time, if you've got the budget, hire a social media manager and agency who can then essentially take over each account, give you back your time. Okay, then you got to think of the opportunity cost. But I think it's good 1 or 2 platforms for you. I wouldn't try going everything, because what we call it is like spraying and praying. Essentially, you're doing a bit of this, a bit of that, and you're hoping something sticks. But you're not really honing down and building one audience, one platform, because they'll naturally, everyone has a stronger platform. So for example, for me, Facebook is my strongest platform, so we get most of our leads from. It's how I met Porrick today, and that's naturally where my most of my community lies, is because I naturally spend the most time there, because it brings the biggest ROI. So yeah, it does depend on how active you are on platforms, how big your existing network is, how much time and budget you've got, if I'm honest. Because I wouldn't, again, I see it time and time again, people try posting everything, every single platform 10 times a week, and then end up doing any of them correctly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Lisa's got good experience of that. She would start and then she would stop, and I'm exactly the same. I wouldn't do as much, but suppose it's one of those. It comes back to one key element here, and it's called content. And people get so, oh Jesus, this doesn't look right, or that doesn't look right, and we all do it. And you overthink it maybe at times. Do you find that much, Joe, with your clients?
Yes, it's when they come to us, they definitely feel like that. So I remember when I So I've been building my personal brand. So you can check me out on Facebook. I've been posting 5 days a week for 4.5 years. Now I remember the first time I ever had to do a video into a group. It took me 10 attempts to say my first name. I was like, so my voice and my brain just stopped working. Like I couldn't even say my first name. So that is normal. And it became a point. I was like, is this worth it? Like I was getting no engagement, no audience, no ROI. And I was like, oh, is this social media stuff worth it? But then I knew, of course it was. But the problem was, obviously I was new in the market. People didn't know who I was. I was essentially just starting out. But I knew if I kept going at it, the compound results were massive. And obviously social media has built our business. You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? And it's built the businesses for our clients as well. And yeah, most people, when they come to us, they have a fear of a few things. The first thing is being judged. I get it's human nature, right? What's Karen from down the road going to say? What's John from the pub going to say about me posting property content? What's this malarkey? I get it. And there will be people in your audience, unfortunately, that don't react the way you want them to react. But that's fine. Because number one, they're never going to invest for you. Number two, they're not going to pay your bills. That's the mindset I tell my clients to adopt. Okay. The right people, there's that saying, your vibe is your tribe, which I know is very, very cheesy, but it's true. Like you will attract the right kind of people, the right people who want to work with you, do business with you, and that champion and support what you do. So yeah, I'd say that's the first thing, fear of being judged. And second thing is having an idea that it's going to be perfect. Okay. Like there's no such thing as perfection. What we call it is progress. Okay. And there won't be the perfect piece of content. We can make content out of everything. It just depends how you view it.
Am I right in thinking, Joe, all right, you can spend a fortune doing completely professional content, but people don't really want that. They want to see the real raw and the individualism of yourself, like, having a meltdown when the washing machine breaks or something, that you're trying to deal with a tenant. Sometimes those types of things are just, they love that, and like that's why social media is so successful, because it allows you to be that way, in a particular way.
100%, I totally agree with that. So in terms of professional content, what I mean by having it professionally done is, I'm not saying it has to be slick and perfect, but what I mean by that is having the fundamentals. So 73% of people watch content without videos, believe it or not, when they're on the train, when they're on the toilet, when they're with friends. So like, for example, the first thing that we always do, and this is what I recommend to anyone listening to this, is you need to make sure you have captions on all your videos, okay? The days of when you don't have captions, people are busy. People are watching on the move, okay? So that's just a basic 101. Second thing is you need to capture attention, okay? Our attention spans are massively declining.
So just so I slow you down a wee bit, Joe, captions, for someone that doesn't, what are you saying by cap? Is that a hook, or is that what is that?
No. So caption is essentially like a subtitle. So like if I'm watching your video, I'm on Facebook now, I can see what you're saying, but without me having to click the actual video. So you can use apps. So there's different apps you use.
So Lisa's in Australia living it up. That's your caption there. Yeah.
No,
living
so
it
what
up in the city.
No, so there's two types. It gets a bit confusing. There's two types of captions. Okay, I'm referring to like the subtitles on the video, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and then the other type of caption, which I can talk about, is giving context to traffic to watch the video.
Gotcha.
And then carry on then, Joe. What were you saying? What was the other things then that you had to kind of go through?
Yeah, so we have a principle which we always live and die by. Okay, so we call it the hook, the story, the call to action. Okay, any market will tell you this. So whenever you're putting any piece of content, whether it be a post, a video, a graphic, a blog, you always want to have something what we call the hook. Okay, that's what stops people from scrolling. Okay, now in today's world, attention is the new currency. Okay, if we can capture and grab and maintain attention, we're going to get eyeballs, we're going to get results, we're going to get finance. Okay, so that's the first thing. Is the first thing you want to do is how am I going to hook that person in? Then once we've hooked them into reading, then we move into like the main bridge of the content. So this is what we call the story. Now, if you're trying to sell something, I think part I mentioned before, you always want to sell the benefits, not the features. Okay, and this is the mistake I see a lot of people doing, is they try to sell the features of the product. So for example, this might be really bad, but let's say you've got a hairdryer. Okay, if you've got a hairdryer, you're buying that hairdryer for that end result, right? Is to have your hair dry in a good time. It's not burnt. It looks good, right? You're not really interested in the fact that it's got a 10 battery processor, or it charges within 5 hours. Like you you want to focus on the end result, which is the mistake a lot of people make. Is that they start
So say,
explaining
for
the
example, in that, like that analogy you just said about the hairdryer, just say you want the long cord on it or whatever. So rather than say, oh, it's got a really long cord on it and it's got a 5-engine motor, what you're saying is your hair's going to be beautiful and you can do it 5 meters back from the mirror or something like that. You're selling the benefit as opposed to all the technicality of the product.
Absolutely, Lisa. Yeah, correct. Exactly that. Because
Okay.
we humans, there's two reasons why we buy, right? The first reason is to move away from pain. Okay, if we've got a certain pain, we will pay to get that pain removed, whether that be the pain of getting to the gym, getting to the car, getting in shape. Okay, we're raising finance. That's the first reason. The second reason is we move towards pleasure. Okay, so whether that be a holiday, an upgrade on a flight, this or that, traveling in style. So we're moving towards the pleasure. Going to a nice restaurant, you're moving towards that pleasure. So as long as our marketing essentially addresses one of these two scenarios, then you won't go far wrong.
So right, so say that in we'll bring this back to the property world then, and we are creating some social media content, and we'll go to basic steps. So I think we discussed this. Maybe the Irish might be a little bit skeptical as a nation, like they wouldn't feel great about kind of putting themselves out there on social
Yeah.
media. So the first question is we've established why it's important. So it's important because people need to know you. If you're looking to raise money or find property. The second thing then is, how do you get started, Joe? If you've never done it before, you feel like you do want to do something and you're going to start, but you want to start. Do you start slowly? And how do you actually just get off the ground with the social media?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to how, if you want to start in property, what's one of the first things you do? You find an educator, you get educated, you learn on the topic. And I'll be honest, if you don't come from a marketing background, it can be very daunting. Yes, sure, anyone could write a post, but there's no strategy, there's no intent behind it. So what I would say is you find an educator, find someone in the marketing space, because there is an art to marketing. There's an art to getting a customer or a stranger to get the end result. There's a lot of psychology behind it. As I mentioned, that people move from one of two things, right? So get someone who ideally knows your market, who knows how to position yourself, and then learn how to essentially create content pillars that you can then go ahead and implement. And honestly, like once you're in the swing of things, creating content, you can create content for anything. Like I already knew last week, coming on today's podcast, what my content piece for today would be, and that's going to be a screenshot of this screen. So I'm already planning in ahead, and you get into that frame of mind where you see content opportunities everywhere. So that's what I would say. I'd find a mentor, get educated, and then just start. Like there's no such thing as the perfect post. You don't need a massive videography team. You don't need professional cameras. Like you with your iPhone, that's how you can start creating content. It's as simple as that. And I think a lot of people overthink. So that's all I'd say is that.
Yeah. And just sorry, Port, before I got a question here based on that. So when I did a lot of my property training about 3 years ago with Progressive Property there, and they promote a lot of that, like social media and all the rest of it. And at the time, I had a pain. I wanted to get away from my corporate job, and it was a massive pain. So I was going to do it, and that was it. The motivation was there, and I did it, and I did a whole lot of it, and it did get me. It did get me results, but I suppose it wasn't structured enough. But what happened was when it started getting results, I started getting busy then with the everyday type things that a property investor actually has to do, and managing the processes and such. So it was very easy then for me to stop doing it. And so that's the reason why I suppose I've gone kind of a little bit hit and miss, because I've gone into the everyday business, but then the funnels kind of end up kind of drying up. So is that what you is that common, or is it just me that does this? Because as Port said, I'm very
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up now. The thing that will always baffle me when I speak to people is that they all understand and appreciate how important social media is. Like you've said it yourself, Lisa, you're getting results. Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting different results, right? Like you were getting the results. So if it was me, and I get it, I'm not a property investor, so I know you've got a million one things to do. All our clients are very busy, but I would always double down and on the thing that's working. And the thing I'll always, as I said, find baffling is that people understand marketing is an essential part of any business, right? But yeah, it's always the thing that we do on the Sunday. We do when we've got a spare 10 minutes. It becomes the bottom of the list. Okay, I need to do a social media post. But we all know, you know, as business people, marketing and sales are essentially the two things that's the bread and butter and the lifeline of any business, right? And marketing and your personal branding is everything in this world. Because if you stop, I guarantee you investors will be checking you out. And if they see no content for a few months, they'll be thinking, is this person still in property? Like, they're the natural thoughts and assumptions. Like, if I just disappeared tomorrow and didn't post for 2 months, I would have huge question marks around me, because I've built an audience, I've built a community, I've built people that follow my journey. Okay. And that's why once you're in, I recommend you've got to be in for the long haul. If you see it as a quick fix, then forget it, in my opinion.
It's not necessarily that you see it as a quick fix. It's one of them ones where it's not comfortable posting videos, posting content, and it becomes a Sunday evening type job / a kind of a, you know, I'm in a property now. Oh, geez, I better do a quick video of myself here now. And you're like, oh God, what content am I actually gonna? You know, it's all about that kind of, you know, what am I going to talk about? So because it's number one, it's uncomfortable. Number two, you're busy. Yes, you do realize that you're feeding your funnel. I just think that, do you think, and I did try to get then a social media person to work on some of my stuff so that they could do it in the background. What do you think it's of benefit to get somebody to run your social media for you, or do you think it's your job to do your own personal branding and your own social media?
Yeah, so that depends on the agency. So our agency, everything we do is personal branding. So obviously some of the clients that I mentioned, everything you see online of them is us. So essentially we're the ones behind the scenes. So we do all of the copywriting, we do all of the ideas, and essentially this was made, and this is the breadline of our business as a social media industry, is that people had the same common problems as Julie said. They knew they had to get out there, they knew they had to be posting their journey, but they didn't know how to do it, where to do it, and have that structure and plan in place. So that's where we come in. So for me, of course, I think every property investor who is not from a marketing background should employ a social media manager. But there's a caveat to that. There's a lot of social media managers out there. There's people, VAs, there's other stuff, you know, that people try and employ. But ultimately, you need to invest good money into marketing, in my opinion, because the ROI you can get is phenomenal. You know, we've had clients that have raised 500K, 750K. One of my biggest clients is 2.7 million over 2.5 years. Again, all through Facebook. So some phenomenal life-changing results. You can see all my YouTube channel. So for me, 100%, I think every property investor that doesn't cover a market background needs to leverage their time, outsource it to a good agency, whether that be ours or whether someone else's, but do your due diligence and make sure they understand property. Because that's the key thing, you know, understanding the terms like GDV, BRR, buy-to-let, SA, all these kind of terms. You know, the FCA regulations, for example, knowing you can't promise returns, you know, being compliant within them regulations is super important. So, yeah, of course, I think it's a great investment as long as it's the right person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and suppose that coming back to this content now, Joe, we know it's funny you say, like, you've noticed that there has been a big shift to Facebook. Suppose it's the older demographic, you know. Thanks for pointing that one out. But you love the old jibes there, Joe. We know. But in all seriousness, you know, LinkedIn is quite big as well for if it is money raising or whatever you're doing. Like, and suppose that transition of that platform over the last while, you can do videos and all that. Me and Lisa, we actually recorded the podcast and popped it up as well. So some people would have watched the podcast. It's funny when you get the stats and you look at it. I actually look better looking on LinkedIn than I did on Facebook. Now I'm just saying that, Lisa, you know, but you can say, you can
my
say
God.
different. You can say different there, you know.
There's definitely a LinkedIn filter, so.
Well, it was one where I got the turkey teeth done before, you know. But no, just that, coming back to that point about LinkedIn, Joe, suppose there's a difference in that as well, and it's actually becoming a more beneficial platform as well. What are we right in saying?
Yeah, so I completely agree in terms of the new features, releasing videos. They're trying to compete with TikTok and Instagram. Personally, I think again, every market, there's LinkedIn specialists that prefer LinkedIn. I think it's a good platform. We've had business through LinkedIn. Is it my number one? No. Could it be number one? Because obviously you can reach out, for example, Sales Navigator. Okay, it's a tool, it's about £80 a month, 70, £80 a month. You can get way more targeted outside of a network, for example, on Facebook, where you're relying on groups. So, for example, on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can search in, okay, I want to target CEOs of companies between, employee head size of 10 to 20 who live in London. So you can get really specific and really pin down your avatar, which I think is fantastic about LinkedIn and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can connect with people you naturally wouldn't be able to connect with on Facebook. So as long as you're using these tools correctly, LinkedIn is a very, very powerful tool. And, I definitely recommend it 100%.
So business is all about people then, Joe, and like people do business with people as opposed to companies. And if LinkedIn is that great at kind of, really pinpointing people, and let's face it, if we're looking to raise finance, it probably is someone that's going to be on LinkedIn because they have the money to do it. Why would that not be a property investor's number one go-to social media platform? Why would you say it's more Facebook as opposed to LinkedIn?
Yeah, so again, it's just from personal. It's a very good question. For some people, LinkedIn will be the number one. I'm just talking about personal preference and from the results that we've generated. Clients have typically had a stronger audience base on Facebook to begin with because naturally they're spending a lot more time on the platform. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, Mark Akerman, he's raised £650,000 last year. Half of that came from a guy he'd known for 30 years, not spoke to in 10 years, but because of the content that we've been regularly putting out there, the guy then got in touch, they had a few meetings, and then the deal was done. So naturally, I always say to people, like, your investors to begin with will be in your existing network. Okay, so let's look at the lowest hanging fruit. It's probably like your uncle that you didn't know had money. It's probably your neighbor's, kids, auntie that's got, that's got money. It's people around you should be leveraging first. So the lowest hanging fruit, in my opinion, is using your existing network, and chances are they're going to be on Facebook more than LinkedIn. However, once you've used your existing network, then to get out to new people, LinkedIn's a fantastic platform. So in my opinion, they work both great in different ways.
Okay.
So let's look at you have a couple of fairly famous clients, Joe, in your portfolio, and let's talk a little bit about them. And I know that you've been working alongside a very well-known individual called Alfie Best. So maybe tell our listeners who are from Ireland or from anywhere over the world who might not know who Alfie is and his level of business and what you've done for Alfie over the last number of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alfie Best, Google him if you've not heard of him. He's on YouTube, he's on everywhere, he's on Amazon Prime. So Alfie Best, also known as the Gypsy Billionaire, has built his wealth through caravan parks, investing, and I think he's got Europe's biggest caravan park site. I might be mistaken, definitely the UK's. And yeah, I've been working with Alfie now for about a year and a half. Met him through one of my existing clients who then went into business with him. We've been to Monaco with Alfie, we've been to London with Alfie, we've been to everywhere around the UK with Alfie. And essentially what we do is we run his social media. So we do all of his Instagram and his TikTok. And then we also do content shoots there with him as well. So for example, like his last event in London, we'll come down, we'll film it, we'll grab the speakers and we'll get testimonials. And then we'll edit that in-house and then distribute that across his account. So yeah, Alfie's definitely an interesting guy. He's given me a lot of good advice, for me being young in business, and yeah, he knows a lot of stuff. And yeah, just the opportunities.
What did you learn from him, Joe? What's one or two things that you have to learn from a fella that's been in business for that long?
Yeah, so it's a good point. I think the first thing is how you do anything is how you do everything. So this is and I know that terms, we use it similar into that term. Essentially, we're saying like you need to be the best at what you do, whether that's doing this, doing that, something you're not happy with. Always show up with integrity, show up on time, and you won't go far wrong. And I know it sounds like a simple thing, show up on time, but the amount of people that don't stick to the word, that don't provide the best service, even if they might not be going their way, essentially. So that's how I do everything, is showing up early, being on time, do what you say you're going to do. And honestly, that's helped me massively in business over the last few years. So I started the business at 20 years old, probably naive kid, learning social media in lockdown. And yeah, it's definitely served me right, because you speak to anyone that's done business with us, we are true, we are integral what we do, and we're honest. So yeah, that genuinely has probably been my biggest piece of advice, which I know is
And
probably
it's suppose I love chatting about business because like property is a business at the end of the day. But looking at what you've done for Alfie and what is the results he's got, Joe, just can you reveal some of the figures or some of the some of
yeah.
the
So I can't reveal the monetary figures, obviously, for
yeah.
confidentiality, but essentially I've got the statistics, but we're averaging about 400,000 views a month. His followers are going up by 5,000%. His reach is growing. I've got the full stats on my phone, but essentially his account's growing, business is growing, and yeah, his personal brand is obviously thriving, which is good, and he's getting leads and conversations through the door.
And this is where people are skeptical of social media, like or whatever. Where's the money, and how is the money generated? But you can digitally analyze that and go, well, there it is there. Explain that to me for someone who doesn't understand that process, so we'll take it from the point of view of Alfie, what he's selling off the back it or whatever it might be, but give me some
how you can run through the numbers.
some figures around that.
Yeah, so there's two ways really. So if you're doing paid ads, okay, so primarily what I've spoke to you about today is organic. So what I mean by organic is uploading to the platform for free and building your personal brand organically off, like, for example, your personal page, or your personal page. So with that, okay, so I can't say to you this post has made me an ROI. Okay. However, if we do paid ads, okay, which is where we do, for example, you're spending £10 a day on Facebook, we can see all the metrics. Okay, so the key metrics that we look out for is your CPM, is what we call your cost per 1,000 impressions. Your CPL, which is the cost per lead. Okay, so if I'm spending £100, my cost per lead is £10. Okay, that means I've generated 10 leads. Then we have something what we call the CTR. It's technical talk. This is what we call the click-through rate. So what's the rate of people that see our ad who then actually click through? Okay, so you'll be able to see, okay, over a 1 month period, I spent £1,000, I've generated 100 leads. Each lead that's converted has been worth £5,000. Okay, I've made 50 grand, for example. So in that way, you can see it. Now, if you're building a personal brand, which I recommend doing on the longer term. So for example, with Mark Akerman, there was nothing on his dashboard that said, okay, this is the guy he'd met for 30 years, not spoke to him in 10 years, and that's how he did business. But naturally, because he'd seen the content and because the guy had said, I've been loving what you're doing, obviously but that's how we attribute our work to that result, if that makes sense. So it's a lot more ambiguous when you're posting content, because it's not like, okay, and even this post made me an ROI. It's the continuity of posts over a period of time which get you that end result.
And even on our non-award winning property podcast, Lisa, that we nearly became second, I think it was, but we'll not get into that. We can see the stats of people that listen to us, and suppose we don't have a downloadable document for us to track. Really, we're amateurish in that particular way, but from the point of view of everything you put out there, you can manage, you can monetize, you can generate leads and opportunities from. So
100%.
So from an accountant's point of view,
so
I'm an accountant, right?
So
here
we go, Joe.
With the maths question, come on.
Jesus, this is don't do business corner now, yeah?
Right. So from an accountant's point of view, actually, I learned a bit from Porik on this. You like from my point of view, when I used to work in the corporate world, I used to think marketing was a waste of time because like that, there was no direct ROI. Okay. So yeah, you were getting kind of sales, but that might not be from that ad. You had no clue as to which ad that was generated from. And it could be word of mouth. It might not even be social media or, marketing. So I think for the skeptics out there, for the ones with the numbers, I think the reason why marketing kind of can easily fall off the bandwagon is because it's not very easily correlated to business, and the ROI is not from an accountant's point of view, the ROI is not very accurate because I went on social media, I raised money because a friend of mine was watching what I was doing and they recommended me to somebody else. And, so it's very much, it's a bit ambiguous in terms of that. So that will be number one. But equally, because I went on social media, I got the results. I got my friends and family and the extended network were watching kind of what I was doing, and it did actually end up getting results. And I've just let it all kind of, so I do need to get back into it. So I suppose that would be my kind of my stance on marketing, and I do see how important marketing actually is. So Joe, just say you're working with the likes of Alfie Best and some real kind of hard hitters, but let's just say we have some of our audience there where they just getting started, or they have 1 or 2 properties, but they're looking to raise more money, because myself and Porrick, we're always talking about raising money, finding deals, etc., and it all needs money. So, say our listener base is probably somebody that has maybe 1 to 5 properties, and they're looking to raise money for more properties and make a business out of it, and maybe escaping the rat race. So you're working with the likes of Alfie Best, you're working with the likes of these guys who are heavy hitters. Like, you're not for them, or are you for them? And how can you help our listeners if they wanted to get your services?
Yeah, good question. I was saying to you guys before we were live that Alfie is not indicative of our typical client base. Okay, so we work with people that have done a deal, sourced a few deals. Some people, so for example, one of our clients, Stuart, he's got a multi-million-pound jeweler. So we do work at all ends of the spectrum. Now, what I say is that we all have to start somewhere. Okay, so maybe like the done for you service where we take over your whole accounts and manage your campaigns, that might not be for you, but we do our own events. We're going to be doing one in Ireland at some point this year, and essentially where we can teach you how to do it for yourself. So give you all the fundamentals, like the plan, the strategy, the outreach, and essentially give you that full template that you can go ahead and implement. So that's what I would say. I'd say try avoid to use a virtual assistant. Okay. Now, because a virtual assistant, yes, I'm sure they will post content for you. Okay, but it's the wrong kind of content in a lot of the cases. Okay. I've seen it time and time again. Don't bother. Learn how to do it yourself. Then when you can get to a point where you can outsource it or semi-outsource it, okay, find a bit more of an affordable solution, which is again something that we do offer. Then team up with someone like us where we can help you and teach you and just get you going. That's all what it's about, especially in the early days. People say to me, should I wait until I get my first property until I start posting? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because what's going to happen is if you're quiet and then suddenly you have the picture with the keys, you've not built up the know, like, and trust yet. People like to see the fuck ups, pardon my French, the behind the scenes. People like to see that. And that's why we say to people, the best time to post was yesterday. The second best time is today. It's as simple as that. So,
and I have to. There's some of the guys in my network that are great crack. They've got past the fear thing, posting every day, and I do see 1 or 2 of them now getting a little sponsor opportunity. Just mention my merchants, builders merchants. So a big shout out to Chris Clark.
nice.
He's been fantastic every day. He takes his phone with him. I'm up on a roof here. I'm doing this today. Who said property was good crack? Those types of things. People relate to it, having a bit of crack. But the big thing I always like to portray as well in this space, the construction industry gets a massive rap about, housing targets, different things, but people don't understand the amount of business that goes on around this actual sector. It's a huge economy, and there's families behind it all. There's there's solicitors, there's interior designers, there's estate agents, there's marketing people like yourself. There's so many different businesses feeding into this business as well, and it is a big cog in the wheel. So it's also from a manufacturing point of view, there's just so many products being made for the construction market, and it is an indicative part of a lot of economies. And we see trades now really starting, and I know we're off tangent here, but trades now are being respected a lot more, at least I suppose. And there would have been that thing that has happened over the last number of years in Ireland and in England, because I'm very exposed to the UK market as well, that they've jeopardized that trade, and as in, it's not, if you're not in computers, or if you're not good with computers, you're not valued in a way, but that skill set is coming back in. So it's really exciting, and it's such a positive thing as well, I think, Lisa, isn't it?
It is, Pork, and actually you just have to kind of hitting the nail on the head there. Like, so say in Ireland, especially, there's a lot of regulation around like kind of the rental market. There's a lot of all the regulation is in favor of the tenants. There's a lot of kind of bad press about landlords. Landlords are dickheads and all the rest of it, right? And what that's done is that's actually all the regulations, has actually mass exodus of landlords. But like Pork has hit the nail on the head there. This industry is actually not just about landlords. This is about like the builders. This is about the all the different support services that are around the property industry. And you know, so the media likes to focus on the, you know, oh, the landlords are the big dirty kind of businessmen of the world. You know, they're just sitting on their big high thrones, and they're, you know, and actually, you're right, Porrick. There's so many families that are affected by this. So do you know what? If you do have this, and I have it in my head too. Don't get me wrong. I am not perfect, and it's probably another reason why I don't consistently post on social media, because what will people think of me? Okay, so if I put this post out, there's many a times I want to put a post out about how shit the regulations are. If you just cut the regulations, make it a bit more free market, stop listening to the cribbing of the bloody tenants, and all the rest of it, we'll get more landlords back in the market, and then the rents will eventually, you know, settle down and they'll go down. But and I feel like, oh shit, I can't really post about that, because what will this one say? What will that one say? And you've got this kind of professional persona. One more thing I want to say before I sorry, because I end up going off on tangents. I was over in Australia, as I showed you, as we were talking about Porrick, and I saw a rental inspection. Right, it was a list. It was basically a letter from the letting agent to a tenant to say, we're doing a rental inspection of your house. This is the things that you need to have done for your rental inspection. Well, let's just say if we had that brought over in Ireland, and I don't know about the UK, like the place had to be spick and span. Like if we actually introduced that into Ireland, the media, everyone would have an absolute field day about, you know, poor tenants and their tenants' rights, and you know, we shouldn't be expected to the tenants to do that. But at the end of the day, my thing is, we are the investors. We're the ones taking the risk with our money, and we're the ones taking on the loans, the debt from the banks, and we should just treat it like a business. And Joe, your social media kind of thing is, it's marketing. This is the way marketing has gone now. It is all social media, and I think that most property professionals should just jump on this bandwagon. So that's my input, and my input into
Oh,
that
I
conversation.
let it fire, Joe. I let it fire. But look,
Hey,
yeah,
Lisa, love that from you.
it's
Yeah. Sorry, I'll go back into my box now.
no, and
That's
that's
good.
the thing. It's good to have a conversation. And Joe, I suppose your business is fantastic, and fair play to you. 24 years of age, you're a tonic to you know, individuals of that age, that you can get up and get going
Appreciate it.
yourself, because it can be very. I've been there before myself. And it can be very overwhelming, and you're doing fantastically well. And just the knowledge you have, and the aspect of just showing people how to do things. You must get great value out of that as well when you go, Jesus, you got that amount of
Yeah,
money raised. Tell us about
exactly.
that feeling.
It's mad. I think for me that there's, you know, that saying, when you love what you do, you don't work. Like for me, like when I go on stage and when I do my own events, like I actually sit down and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is actually my job. I remember when I started this business 5 years ago, my mum said to me, she's on this exact kitchen table outside right now. She said to me, she was like, oh, look, do you actually think you can make a living out of posting Instagram pictures for people? So she didn't understand the concept of social media marketing, which I get, right? It's a new thing. Like, you know, you go to uni, you get a structured job, you get into a profession. Like posting on social media, it's you know, it's a bit of a crazy thing. Like, you know, if you'd have said this like 5-10 years ago. So for me now to be able to do this, and you know, my sister works in the business, and one of my best friends, he works in the business, so to be able to support these people is just phenomenal. And when a client turns around to me after a few months working with us, and the confidence has grown, their business has grown, and they've raised that money, like for us, like it's just mega, because it's like this person's life is changing, and for us to play a part in that, it's just, yeah, it just reinforces what we do, and it helps us drive them to grow more and push them more, because we do push people out of their comfort zones, you know, and we don't hide about that, because that's the way you grow. So when people take that advice on and get them results, it's mega. It's mega.
Joe, it's been a fantastic. We're over the limit. We're over 45 minutes, and we could stay for another 45, I'm sure, Lisa. But great journey, and inspiring young man, Joe, as well. And our listeners will get so much out of today's podcast.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
for sure. And I just want to say, Joe, when Porrick said, "Oh, I've got Joe Taylor coming onto the podcast," I was like, like he's doing like your social media presence is huge. And okay, I've not kind of directly communicated with you on social media, but you're definitely in my my outer circle. I do know about you, so your own social media kind of branding is just on point. And the fact that you're only 24, amazing, well done. Like, and I suppose it's actually probably a superpower, because you don't have, you're more likely to take the risks,
He,
and the
he's
risks
got
are paid off.
he's no baggage. He doesn't care.
No,
Yeah.
He doesn't
that's
care.
what I'm saying. It's the best time is to do it now. The best time is to do it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, we're getting better at it. We're getting better at least, aren't we? We're getting a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. Soon we'll be joining Joe in Dubai and on
Yeah,
Monaco and on the boat.
You'll be
I will
coming.
have a lovely set of turkey teeth, and I'll have the hair plan. We'll be in Turkey. We'll get everything done, Lisa. We'll be like brand new. We'll tan, and great.
Sorry, can I just say, Porrick, please speak for yourself. I'm a lot younger than you are. You can go to Turkey or whatever you need. So
Lisa's perfect the way she is.
She is. No, she is. Look, thanks for joining us on today's show. You can check us out on Facebook. Jump into our Facebook group, and we will be, of course, sharing knowledge, little nuggets. We also have a LinkedIn page as well, which we have about 10 followers. So follow us on LinkedIn. Check out the Solid Foundations Property Podcast on LinkedIn. And we have to get our social media up and running a bit better, I think, Lisa, to get more listeners and help more people within the property industry in Ireland and England. And we're dipping our toe in, or Ireland and Northern Ireland, and we're dipping our toe into the UK as well, because we've got a great network over there, as me and you have established over the years. But look, Joe, thanks so much for giving us your time this morning. I really appreciate it. From sunny Leeds, from Donegal here in Ireland. Have a good week. And Lisa, have you anything else to add before we finish up?
no, just one thing, Joe. If people want to work with you, how do they contact you? What's the best way?
Yes, good point. So the best way is on Insta. You can find me on Facebook, just Joe Taylor, eGrowth Media, or on Instagram, it's at eGrowth Media Ltd, and you can see there, and you can book a call on us directly, and we can work together. Or if you're a bit more old school and you want to use email, it's just Joe Joe at eGrowth Media, as you can see here on the screen .co.uk.
Porrick will probably email you and I'll probably DM you. So yeah, just to finish up on that point, because he's the old school one. Thanks a million, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.